Before we start, if you love stories about compassion, kindness, and the power of good people doing the right thing, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We share inspiring stories that restore your faith in humanity. Now let's begin. A wealthy CEO named Patricia was sitting in her office when a stranger walked in. The man looked desperate. He said, "Madam, your employee saved my boy today. If she hadn't done what she did, my son would be dead right now." Patricia didn't understand. She had thousands of employees. She had no idea what he was talking about. But as the stranger told his story, Patricia realized something that would change how she thought about her business, her employees, and what really matters in life. What the stranger revealed about her employees' actions would leave her speechless, and it would inspire her to completely transform her company's values and culture. If you want to hear a story about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, keep watching. Her name was Patricia Chen, and she was 56 years old. Patricia was the CEO of a major retail company called Sterling Shopping. The company had 500 stores across North America and employed over 50,000 people. Sterling Shopping was known for having good products and competitive prices, but it wasn't known for anything special. It was just a successful, efficient, profitable business. Patricia had built the company from her father's small store into a retail empire. She was proud of her accomplishments. She was featured in business magazines. She was invited to speak at conferences. She served on the boards of several charities. But honestly, Patricia was tired. She had spent 30 years climbing the corporate ladder. She had worked constantly. She had sacrificed personal relationships for her career. She had 2 adult children who barely spoke to her. She had been married once, but her husband had left because he said she was married to her job instead of to him. Patricia lived in a penthouse apartment in the city. She had everything that money could buy: expensive furniture, expensive art, expensive clothes. But she didn't have time to enjoy any of it. She was usually at the office by 6 in the morning and didn't leave until 8 at night. Her company was profitable. That was what mattered. That was what she had focused on for 3 decades. Patricia rarely visited her stores. She didn't know her employees. She communicated with them through managers and district supervisors. She had no idea what their lives were like or what they dealt with on a daily basis. The company's profit margins were very important to her. When costs went up, she found ways to cut them. When efficiency could be improved, she implemented it. She was known as a tough CEO who made hard decisions. Some of her decisions weren't very popular with employees. She had cut benefits twice in the past 5 years. She had reduced holiday bonuses. She had implemented a strict attendance policy where employees could be fired if they had too many absences, even if those absences were for legitimate reasons like illness or family emergencies. Patricia didn't see this as being cruel. She saw it as being realistic. The world was competitive. If Sterling Shopping didn't control costs, competitors would take market share. If employees couldn't handle strict policies, there were plenty of other people who would take their jobs. This was how business worked, Patricia believed. One of Patricia's employees was a woman named Maria Gonzalez. Maria was 42 years old and had worked at Sterling Shopping for 11 years. She was a cashier and floor associate at a Sterling Shopping store in a working-class neighborhood of Los Angeles. Maria had come to America from Mexico when she was 25 years old. She didn't speak English very well at first. She had worked as a housekeeper, a nanny, and a restaurant worker. Those jobs didn't pay much and they were exhausting. When Maria got a job at Sterling Shopping, it felt like a step up. The pay was better than housekeeping. She had some benefits. She had consistent hours. She tried hard to do a good job. But Maria's life was still difficult. She was raising 2 sons alone, Carlos, who was 16, and Diego, who was 12. Her husband had been deported 5 years earlier. She never heard from him again. Maria worked her job at Sterling Shopping, but she also cleaned houses on the weekends. She needed every penny she could earn to keep her family stable, to pay rent, to buy food and school supplies. Maria was tired. She was always tired, but she never complained. She showed up every day. She did her job well. She smiled at customers even when she was exhausted. She loved her sons more than anything. She wanted them to have opportunities she had never had. She wanted them to graduate from high school and maybe go to college. She wanted them to have safe, good lives. Carlos was a good kid. He went to school. He helped his younger brother. He didn't get into trouble. But he was a teenager in a tough neighborhood, and there were a lot of bad influences around. One afternoon when Maria was at work, something happened that would change everything. Carlos was walking home from school when he saw an older boy beating up a younger kid on the street. The younger boy was being attacked, knocked to the ground, kicked, being seriously hurt. Carlos was a good kid, but he was also 14 years old and didn't have the experience to know what he should do. He could walk away. He could get an adult. Or he could try to help. Carlos tried to help. He ran toward the older boy and yelled at him to stop. The older boy turned on Carlos instead. Suddenly Carlos was being attacked. He was much younger and smaller than the older boy. He was being beaten badly. The older boy was part of a gang in the neighborhood. He was vicious and experienced in street fighting. Carlos had never been in a real fight before. He didn't know how to protect himself. He tried to cover his head and get away, but the older boy kept hitting him. The attack was severe. Carlos fell to the ground. He was bleeding. He couldn't get up. Just as things were getting worse, a woman appeared. She had been walking home from work, taking a shortcut through the neighborhood. Her name was Lisa Chan, and she worked as a floor associate at Sterling Shopping, the same store where Maria worked. Lisa was in her late 60s. She had worked at Sterling Shopping for 8 years. She was quiet and didn't talk much, but she was reliable. She showed up every day and did her job. But Lisa had a secret that most people didn't know. When she was younger, Lisa had been in an abusive marriage. She had experienced violence. She knew what it felt like to be powerless. She had survived that period of her life and made a commitment to herself. If she ever saw someone else being hurt and she had the power to help, she would. So when Lisa saw Carlos being beaten, something inside her shifted. She didn't think about the danger. She didn't think about what could happen to her. She thought about a 14-year-old boy who needed help. Lisa screamed. She ran at the older boy and hit him with her purse as hard as she could. She screamed again and again, drawing attention. Other people came out of their buildings to see what was happening. The older boy ran away. He wasn't going to fight an old woman and risk more people getting involved. Lisa knelt down beside Carlos. He was bleeding from his head. He was barely conscious. Lisa called 911. She told them where they were and that a boy needed medical help. While they waited for the ambulance, Lisa stayed with Carlos. She held his hand. She told him he was going to be okay. She kept him calm and conscious. The ambulance came. Carlos was taken to the hospital. Lisa gave a statement to the police about what she had seen. At the hospital, Carlos had a concussion, a broken rib, and severe bruising. The doctors said that if the attack had continued much longer, Carlos could have died. The beating was that severe. Carlos was in the hospital for 3 days. During that time, Maria was at his bedside as much as she could be. But she also had to work because she couldn't afford to miss shifts. Her attendance policy was strict. If she missed too many days, she could be fired. On the 3rd day, Carlos's father, Maria's ex-husband, who had been deported years earlier, somehow found a way to contact Maria from Mexico. He heard that Carlos had been attacked. He wanted to know if his son was okay. Maria broke down. She told him that yes, their son was alive. But she also told him that she almost lost him. That if it hadn't been for a woman, a stranger, a woman who worked at her own job for terrible pay and was probably exhausted, her son might be dead. This woman saved his life, Maria said. She didn't know him. She had nothing to gain. But she did what was right. She risked herself for my son. Maria's ex-husband, even though he wasn't in their lives anymore, was deeply moved by this. He asked Maria to tell him this woman's name so he could somehow thank her. Maria found out from Carlos that the woman's name was Lisa Chan. She worked at Sterling Shopping. The next day, when Maria came to work, she found Lisa at the store. She hugged her. She cried. She thanked her over and over. "You saved my son's life," Maria said. "I don't have words to thank you. I don't have money to give you. But please know that you changed my son's life. You changed my life." Lisa looked uncomfortable with all the attention. She was a quiet, humble woman. "I just did what anyone should do," Lisa said. "I couldn't let that boy get hurt." Maria went to her shift supervisor and asked if there was something she could do for Lisa. Could they give her a bonus? Could they give her a raise? The shift supervisor looked uncomfortable. I can ask, but I don't think the company will do anything, the supervisor said. Lisa did a good thing, but company policy is that we don't give bonuses for off-duty activities. It's in the manual. Maria was disappointed, but she understood. It was company policy. What Maria didn't know was that her ex-husband in Mexico had decided to do something. He reached out through mutual friends to find the address of Sterling Shopping's corporate headquarters. He wrote a letter. In it, he told the story of his son being attacked. He told the story of Lisa Chun saving his son's life. He told the story of Maria working so hard every day at a job that didn't pay her enough. He told the story of a woman who didn't know anyone involved, but did what was right anyway. He mailed the letter to Patricia Chun, the CEO of Sterling Shopping. He addressed it to the leader, because he didn't know Patricia's name. That letter was what brought the stranger to Patricia's office. The stranger who walked into Patricia's office wasn't actually Carlos's father. By the time the letter arrived, Carlos's father was too sick to travel, but he had asked his sister, Carlos's aunt, to deliver the letter in person and tell the story. Her name was Rosa Mendez. She had come from Mexico specifically to meet with Patricia. Rosa walked into Patricia's office and asked to speak with the CEO. The front desk almost didn't let her through. She wasn't dressed in expensive business clothes. She didn't have an appointment. She didn't look like someone who belonged in the corporate office. But the receptionist saw something in Rosa's eyes, determination and emotion that suggested this was important. She called Patricia's assistant. Patricia's assistant almost turned Rosa away, but something made her go ahead and mention Rosa to Patricia. Maybe it was the way Rosa was holding the letter, carefully like it was precious. Patricia, in one of those unexpected moments where she decided to break routine, agreed to see Rosa. Rosa walked into Patricia's office. Patricia gestured for her to sit. "What can I do for you?" Patricia asked, already thinking about her next meeting and reviewing her calendar on her computer. Rosa took a breath and began to tell the story. She told Patricia about Carlos being attacked on the street. She told Patricia about the beating that could have been fatal. She told Patricia about Lisa Chun, an employee of Sterling Shopping, running toward danger to help a stranger's child. Patricia looked up from her computer. She was listening now. Rosa continued telling the story. She told Patricia about Lisa calling the ambulance, about Lisa staying with Carlos and keeping him conscious, about the hospital and the doctors saying that without Lisa's intervention, Carlos would have died. Patricia sat back in her chair, listening to every word. "Why are you telling me this?" Patricia asked. "Why did you come all the way from Mexico to tell me this story?" "Because," Rosa said, "I wanted you to know what kind of person works for you. I wanted you to know that your employee is a hero. My nephew is alive because of her. My sister, his mother, still has her son because of her." Rosa paused. "And I wanted to ask you," Rosa continued, "if you could do something to honor what Lisa did. She risked herself. She did the right thing. It would mean so much to our family if her company, your company, recognized her for that." Patricia didn't respond right away. She was thinking. "Tell me about Maria," Patricia said. "Carlos's mother. You said she works here too." "Yes," Rosa said. "Maria is a cashier. She has worked for Sterling Shopping for 11 years. She is a hard worker. She comes to work even when she is very tired. She is raising 2 sons alone. She does everything for her family." Patricia listened as Rosa told her about Maria's life, about how Maria struggled to pay rent, about how Maria worked weekends in addition to her job, about how Maria loved her sons and was trying to give them better lives. "And when Carlos was in the hospital," Rosa said, "Maria had to go back to work because she couldn't afford to miss her shifts. Your company's policy is very strict. Too many absences and she could lose her job. She couldn't risk it." Rosa looked at Patricia directly. "So while her son was recovering from nearly being killed, your employee, the mother, had to leave him at the hospital and go back to work. That is the situation in your company." Patricia felt something shift inside her. She had been so focused on profit margins and efficiency that she hadn't thought about the human cost of her policies. "I want to give you something," Rosa said, pulling out an envelope. She handed it to Patricia. Inside was a handwritten letter from Carlos's father. It was in Spanish, but it was simple enough that Patricia could understand most of it. The letter told the story again, but from a father's perspective. It talked about how he was not in his son's life because of circumstances beyond his control. It talked about how his sister and ex-wife were raising the boys. It talked about how grateful he was that Lisa-chan had been there. Then it said something that made Patricia's eyes fill with tears. I wanted my son to know what it means to be a hero. I couldn't be there for him. But your employee Lisa showed him. She showed him what it means to do the right thing no matter the cost. That is the greatest gift a person can give to another person. Patricia sat with that letter in her hands for a long time. She didn't speak. What will you do? Rosa finally asked. Patricia looked at her. I need to meet with Lisa, Patricia said. I need to meet with Maria. And I need to think about some things. After Rosa left, Patricia did something she hadn't done in years. She closed her office door. She sat alone for an hour and thought. She thought about her company. She thought about her employees. She thought about Lisa, who had been working at Sterling Shopping for 8 years without Patricia ever knowing her name. She thought about Maria, struggling to support her family on wages that were barely enough. She thought about her own life. She thought about her children who didn't really know her. She thought about sacrificing everything for a company that was just a company. Patricia made some decisions that day. First, she arranged to meet with Lisa. She went to the store where Lisa worked and asked to speak with her in the manager's office. Lisa was confused about why the CEO wanted to meet with her. She didn't know what she had done wrong. When Patricia told her that she knew about Carlos and what Lisa had done, Lisa got uncomfortable. I just did what was right, Lisa said again. I know, Patricia said, and I want to make sure you understand how grateful I am, and how grateful your company is. You risked yourself for a stranger. That's extraordinary. Patricia told Lisa that Sterling Shopping wanted to give her a $50,000 reward for her heroic actions. Patricia also offered Lisa a promotion to a supervisory position, if she wanted it, with a significant salary increase. Lisa was shocked. She didn't want the money. She said she just did what anyone should do. But Patricia insisted. You did what anyone should do, Patricia agreed. But most people don't do it. Most people would walk past. Most people would mind their own business. You didn't. That makes you special. I want my company to honor that. Lisa accepted, though she was still uncomfortable with the attention. Then Patricia met with Maria. I know about your son, Patricia said to Maria. I know about what happened. I know that you came back to work while he was recovering because of our attendance policy. Maria looked nervous, like she was going to be in trouble. I'm changing that policy, Patricia said. Effective immediately. Employees can take time off for legitimate family emergencies without penalty. Your son could have died. That's an emergency. You should have been able to be at his bedside without worry. Patricia also gave Maria a raise. She explained that she valued her work and her dedication. But more than that, Patricia said, I want to apologize. I've been running this company without thinking about the real people who work here. I've been focused on profit margins and efficiency. But I haven't been thinking about you. About your lives. About what you're going through. Maria started to cry. I'm going to change that, Patricia continued. I'm going to make some changes to this company. I'm going to make sure that we treat our employees with respect and care. I'm going to make sure that we don't just think about profit. We also think about people. Patricia made good on her promise. Over the next year, she implemented several major changes to Sterling Shopping. She increased wages for all hourly employees by 15%. She improved the attendance policy to be more reasonable and compassionate. She created a program to help employees with education, offering tuition assistance for employees who wanted to take college courses. She created an emergency fund for employees who faced unexpected hardship. She created a mentorship program where managers were trained in compassionate leadership instead of harsh management. She instituted a policy where executives like her would visit stores regularly and actually speak with employees, really listen to them. Most importantly, she changed the company's mission statement. Instead of just focusing on profit, the mission now also emphasized, we care for our employees and the communities we serve. Some shareholders were concerned about these changes. They worried that increased spending on employees would cut into profits. But Patricia held firm. "I've spent 30 years building a company that was profitable but heartless," Patricia said at a shareholder meeting. "I realized that I was missing something important. A company is only as good as the people who work there. If we treat our people well, if we care about them, they will care about the company. And the company will succeed even better." Patricia was right. In the 2 years after implementing these changes, Sterling Shopping's stock price actually increased by 30%. Customer satisfaction went up. Employee satisfaction went up dramatically. Turnover decreased, which saved money on training and hiring. It turned out that treating people well was also good for business. 2 years after Rosa came to her office, Patricia sat down with a journalist to reflect on what had happened. "Tell me about the moment when that stranger walked into your office," the journalist said. Patricia was quiet for a moment. "I was not a good person," Patricia said simply. "I was a good CEO, I thought. I was efficient. I was profitable. But I was not a good person. I had sacrificed too much of my humanity for success." She paused. When Rosa told me about her nephew being attacked, about Lisa saving his life, about Maria having to go back to work while her son was recovering, something clicked for me. I realized that I had created a company where people had to choose between their families and their jobs. That was wrong. "What do you think would have happened if that stranger hadn't come to your office?" the journalist asked. "I don't know," Patricia said. "Maybe I would have kept going the way I was. Maybe I would have retired without ever really understanding what I had done, or what it meant. That frightens me." Patricia looked at the camera. "I think what happened is that I got a second chance," she said. "Not everyone gets a second chance to be a better person. I got one because a stranger traveled from Mexico to make me understand something I should have understood all along. That the people who work for you are not just workers. They are human beings with families and struggles and dreams." Patricia smiled slightly. "Lisa, my employee who saved that boy, she understood something that took me 56 years to learn. She understood that other people matter. She understood that doing the right thing is more important than safety or convenience or anything else. She did what was right. And Maria," Patricia continued, "she understood something too. She understood that work is important, that loyalty matters, that showing up every day and doing your best matters. That's a kind of quiet heroism that we don't celebrate enough." Patricia's company became known for its ethical treatment of employees. Other companies started copying her model. Business schools started using Sterling Shopping as a case study for how to be profitable while also being humane. Patricia was invited to speak at conferences, not about profit margins but about leadership and humanity. She spoke about Lisa. She spoke about Maria. She spoke about the lesson that a stranger from Mexico had taught her. 3 years after Rosa's visit, Patricia created a nonprofit foundation dedicated to helping survivors of violence, like Lisa had been. The foundation was named after Lisa Chan and provided resources for people who had experienced domestic violence or community violence. Lisa didn't become famous or change her life dramatically. She didn't take the promotion Patricia offered. She stayed in her job at the store, but she was happier. She was appreciated. She knew that what she did mattered. Maria was able to reduce her weekend housecleaning work. The raise Patricia gave her helped her provide for her family without working herself to exhaustion. Carlos graduated from high school and went to college. He studied to become a social worker because he wanted to help young people in neighborhoods like his. Patricia never forgot the lesson. She spent her final years as CEO transforming Sterling Shopping from a company focused only on profit into a company that balanced profit with purpose. When Patricia retired at 62, 5 years earlier than she had planned, she said it was because she wanted to actually live her life. She wanted to spend time with her adult children, whom she had neglected for so long. She wanted to focus on her foundation. She wanted to be the kind of person who showed up for others the way Lisa Chen had showed up for a stranger. Patricia often thought about the moment when Rosa walked into her office. That moment had been the turning point of her life. That moment had taught her that success without compassion is empty. That moment had taught her that the people around us, our employees, our neighbors, our community, matter more than profit margins. ## bar chart the power of one person's kindness. Lisa Chen never thought of herself as a hero. She was just someone who saw another person in trouble and helped. She didn't expect recognition. She didn't expect reward. She just did what she thought was right. But her action changed everything. It changed Carlos's life. It changed Maria's life. It changed Patricia's life. It changed Sterling Shopping. It inspired other companies to think differently about how they treat their employees. One act of kindness. One person willing to risk themselves for a stranger. That's what it took to create a ripple effect that affected thousands of people. This is the real lesson of this story. We think that big changes require big dramatic moments. But often big changes come from small acts of kindness. They come from people like Lisa, who see someone in trouble and help, without expecting anything in return. They come from people like Patricia, who are willing to admit that they were wrong and change, who are willing to hear criticism and learn from it, who are willing to put people before profit. If you work somewhere that doesn't treat employees well, you can speak up. You can advocate for change. You can be the person who says, "This isn't right." If you see someone in trouble, you can help. You can be the Lisa-chan in someone else's story. If you're in a position of power, you can choose to use that power ethically. You can choose to care about the people under you. You can choose to create an organization that values people as much as profit. All of it starts with one person deciding to do the right thing. ## clapperboard final message and call to action. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe in the power of kindness and the possibility of change, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We share stories about people who do the right thing and inspire change in the world. This story reminds us of something we sometimes forget, that the people around us, the people we work with, the people we live near, the people we encounter every day, can make an enormous difference in our lives. And we can make an enormous difference in theirs. You might be the Lisa-chan in someone's story. You might be the person who shows up when it matters. You might be the person who risks yourself for a stranger. If that's who you are, or if you want to be that person, you have more power than you know. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that changed someone's life? Have you ever been the person who helped when it mattered? Have you ever changed your mind about something important? Tell us your story. Your experience might inspire someone else. Remember, we all have the power to create change. We all have the power to be kind. We all have the power to do what's right, even when it's hard. And sometimes one person's kindness can change everything. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story about people doing extraordinary things through kindness and compassion. We'll see you in the next video.